So this is the buckling apparatus. Okay. So in the solid mechanics theory, you might have studied the phenomena of buckling and the critical load and so on. Okay. Critical buckling load and so on. So under what condition the buckling occurs? When you have a long bar, if it is straight, perfectly straight, without any bends or so on, and if you apply the compressive forces onto this particular bar, then if a small disturbance is given to the bar, then it buckles. That means it creates a bending in the other plane. Okay. Therefore, that kind of phenomena is known as the buckling. And we also know that given a particular bar, given a particular end conditions of the bar, not every bar with a particular end condition does not buckle for any value of the load. So there are certain critical loads. Only after the force reaching to that particular critical only the bar, okay, starts buckling. Okay. So these bars in the buckling are generally called as columns basically. That is what we call column buckling. Okay. Generally column is one you can imagine. It is to be a prismatic bar and a lengthy bar subjected to the compressive forces. Now to verify, so you have done a lot of calculations in the elementary strength of materials to calculate the critical load of a particular prismatic bar under different end conditions. So you have a mathematical theory, you have certain assumptions. Based on the assumptions, you derived the values of the critical loads, okay, for various end conditions. Now the question is that, are they really correct? That means whether the theory is giving the correct formulas for the critical loads, how to verify it? And therefore, this is the apparatus which will actually verify the critical loads. Therefore, as you can guess from the theory that we require a column, that is, as you can see that, so we have a different length columns with a different lengths are there. You also know that the amount of critical load directly depends on the inversely proportional to the length of the column. For short columns, the buckling load is very high, and for the long columns the critical buckling load is very large, and also it depends on the cross sectional area and conditions and so on. But in general, the lengthy columns will have less critical load, and the stubby columns will have more loads. Therefore, you can see that this particular mission contains various columns, okay, of different lengths, and using here this condition and here we can create a various boundary conditions. Okay. So because the critical load depends on the boundary condition, that is fixed at the bottom, pinned at the top, or both the ends are pinned and so on. So different boundary conditions can be created using this particular location and this particular location. So the force can be directly applied manually using by turning this particular knob, and the force comes gradually. As soon as the force reaches to the critical load, it starts buckling. And this is very interesting to see that the columns are actually buckling under the critical loads. And the critical load can be recorded in this particular sensor, in this particular display. And what we need to do is that the column sizes are given, column lengths are given, different end conditions are given. Therefore, from the theory you calculate the critical load, and from the experiment also you noted down the critical load from this display. So therefore, you compare the theoretical value versus the experimental value, and just see that how much amount of error that can come and between the experiment and the theory, and that gives a sound knowledge about how strong these buckling column theories are that you have already studied in the strength of material course.
So today I will show you how to determine the Euler's buckling load of different types of struts of different lengths. So this is the setup that you will be using to determine the Euler's buckling load of these various struts. So we have different struts of various lengths. So these are some struts. So we need to find out the buckling load of each one by one. So as you can see, we have a certain formula for determining the buckling load under various conditions. For example, this is a pin end condition. In this pin end condition, we will be using this formula to find out the Euler's buckling load. Again, this is one end fixed and one end pinned. In this case, this will be the formula, and in this case, both ends pinned. In this case, this will be the formula. So this is how we theoretically we can find out the buckling load. But now using this experiment, we will experimentally find out the buckling load. Experimental setup for the experiment. So as you can see, this is the frame, and these are the 2 points, these are the 2 fixtures between which your strut will be fitted like this. So presently it is adjusted for this shorter one. So in this way, this is adjustable. You can lift it up and you can fit it here like this. So now I am not using any screws or not using any fixtures. So it is simply fitted between these 2 knots. This is the lower knot and this is the upper knot. So this is the pin and joint. This is called the pin and conditions. Both ends are pinned. So this is the pin and conditions. Now with the help of this lead screw, we can keep on pressing this. It should be fitted between these 2 fixtures. Now this is the loading unit, with the help of which you can apply load on the strut to make it buckle just by rotating this lead screw. And at the lower end, you see below this lower fixture there is a load cell. So that load cell will sense the load that you are applying on the strut, and this load will be displayed in this display unit in Newton. So presently there is some error is there, so you can set it to 0 using this knob. So I will now first make it 0 because there is no load in the strut. Now it is 0, fine. So now I will again fix the strut between these 2 fixtures. Now you see I will go on applying load here. I am compressing the strut so that it will start to buckle, and you can see load is increasing. Increasing in the negative direction means this is a compressive load. It is increasing, but it has not yet started to buckle. Once it buckles, load will remain constant and buckling will go on increasing. So now as you observe, you see the strut has started buckling. If you observe carefully, strut has started buckling and the load is now constant. This is the maximum load at which the buckling will take place. Now you go on increasing, deflection, load will remain constant. So this is the Euler's buckling load or critical buckling load for this strut. So we have found out the buckling load for that particular strut experimentally. So theoretically you can find out using this formula. This is the formula for the first condition, both ends pinned. So for that, this phi E is the elasticity, modulus of elasticity, I is the moment of inertia, L is the length of the strut. So the dimensions of this strut will be given here. So you can very easily find out the theoretical buckling load using this formula. So you have to compare your experimental value with the theoretical value. This way we can repeat the experiment for the other struts also of various lengths. So for that, if you use a longer strut, you don't have to do anything, just adjust these screws and move it a little bit up so that it gets fitted within these 2 joints. If you want to use it for a lower one, if you want to use it for a shorter one, then again you have to just loosen this and bring it down and repeat the experiment. And for each of these struts, dimensions are given. And one more thing, if you want to do the experiment under various end conditions like one end fixed, one end pinned, both ends fixed, then you will have to use the different formulas and do the experiment.